Hey everybody, and welcome to our InPower Coffee Break today to talk about career intentions and how important they are to your career success and moving you towards that success all the time, whether you're happy with your job now or you're looking for a new job or you're thinking about looking for a new job. Career intentions are such a key motivator through that whole process. So we're privileged today to have Mary Schaefer back. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
And Mary Brody, who's our InPower marketing machine. So we're going to have a conversation about career intentions today on this coffee break, but every Tuesday at 1 o'clock for half an hour, we talk about a variety of topics, all the way from how to survive and thrive in the workplace, women and leadership, diversity in leadership, how to build a pro-employee, or as Mary likes to say, a pro-human workplace. And what you can do as an individual, as a leader in your organization to bring the power of your people forward in your business. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Brody for a brief introduction of Mary Schaefer, and then we'll launch into this topic of career transition and the role of career intention in that.
Hi, so Mary Schaefer has been on our show before in past episodes, and you can get them on the website, or you can also go to iTunes for the podcasts. We're transitioning everything over to link there. Mary has a master's degree in human resources and is certified as a professional in human resources. She lives and teaches empowerment and how to have productive manager-employee interactions. As a speaker, coach, and trainer, she focuses on making the most of what human resources can contribute to an organization through their energy and creativity, while at the same time meeting their own specific needs for meaningful work. In our discussion today, we're going to talk about what it means to set a career intention. So welcome, Mary. I should say welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate this. Yes.
You know, it's one of the things that I really enjoy about these coffee breaks is how we come at developing human potential from all the different points of view, right? I mean, there's the organization's ability to create an environment that allows people to be successful and encourages their success. There's individual interactions between people that enable the same thing. And this time we're kind of looking at it from that personal perspective. Like, if I'm going to be successful, I have to take charge of my own career. And as we launch into this, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Mary, in a moment about the career intention, but I did want to share one little vignette that really kind of surprised me, but also it put a lot of what I've been getting from clients and other people recently in my practice into context. So I had a lunch with a friend who works for probably the largest outplacement firm in the world, and they shall remain nameless. But she was sharing with me, I was asking her about, when people are looking to transition their career, they're getting a new job, what does she see? What are trends? What are patterns? And she said the biggest one was that maybe 10 or 20 years ago, there were programs inside companies to support people thinking about their career development. Mm-hmm. And recently, those have disappeared. Companies aren't assuming people will be with them for 10 or 20 years anymore. Mm-hmm. And so they're kind of like, we're not going to invest in you. So you're on your own. And there's a lot of individuals who haven't really fully adjusted to this reality.
Yeah.
They haven't taken on fully the responsibility themselves to chart their own career. Or even if they do, they feel kind of helpless. They feel kind of powerless.
Yeah.
Doing that. So one of the things InPower Coaching is going to be doing in the months ahead is launching a bunch of tools and resources to support people in managing their own career development. And this whole question of career intention is it is the beginning point. It is like, without a career intention, it's really hard for you to go put your resume together or find the right job to apply to, or go to your boss and ask for the right kind of training and development, because you're really not focused on what direction you're moving. Mm-hmm. And where you ultimately see your success being. So I really want to thank you for bringing this up so strongly. And your post last week, was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. Your post last week was an excellent kind of primer on this important topic. So let me toss it to you. What does a career intention mean to you? What does it look like?
Yeah, thank you for that great preamble to this, because it really puts it in, I think, an important context given what we're going through today. As you described your conversation with your friend, the world certainly has changed in the last 10 or 20 years. And as you were speaking, I was getting chills because absolutely, primarily what informs my perspective and my advice is my very first experience with my job having been at stake in a Fortune 500 company, and having experienced that 7 more times after that until I finally chose to leave. But after that first one, I got it really clear that I had to own my career. And I had to prove that I was qualified for my job in that particular round of things. They gave me 11 qualifications. I was to pull together evidence that I was qualified for my job.
This is the job you already had?
Yes. I was really mad because, hey, if we've got people who aren't cutting it, why haven't you already taken care of that? Why do I have to prove that I'm already qualified for my job? I counted the hours. I spent 24 hours pulling that information together and came out with a file 2 inches thick. I still have it because of what it meant to me. I went into my boss and I showed it to him when it was my time for me to defend like defending your thesis, defending my job. And he looked at that file and he's like, I should have known. I'm like, of course. And I remember you scored 1 out of 5 on each of those 11. I scored 5s out of all of them except 1. I think I got a 4. And I came out on the other end thinking, wow, they're lucky to have me. And if I do leave, I can find something. Not everyone had that reaction. Many people I spoke to still were very resentful and why isn't the company taking care of me? People would actually, because I took care of myself, call me disloyal. In fact, that I was keeping my resume up to date, even though I had no plans to leave, but who's going to do it if I don't? And so I did a lot of training, in fact, in subsequent years after that, went through this with hundreds of people on how to manage being a survivor of downsizing. Like, you still have the job. It's pretty hard on you too. After the people who leave, get to restart bad or good, but the people who are left behind, it's a whole nother dynamic. And I remember one particular thing I would hear a lot of is, why doesn't the company fill in the blank? Why doesn't my manager fill in the blank? And it was some form of take care of me. And I'm like, you can wish that all you want, but what if they don't? What if they don't? And this is the new world of work. And so as you can see, I have a long history of what it means to set your intention for your career and own your career. And it doesn't mean that you're disloyal. I earned every penny I was paid and my bonuses while I was employed at a Fortune 500 company. But I also planned for 7 years for the possibility that I might choose to leave. And that seems extreme to some people, but I'm responsible for myself. So I felt that was being responsible. So as in connection with this post, I thought about that. And one of my first points is first check in with yourself. Where are you in your current position around setting your intention? Do you like where you are? How do you feel about getting up in the morning and going to work? Do you like who you work with? All of those things matter. As I said, I thought about this for 7 years and knew it wasn't working for me from a satisfaction standpoint But you know what ultimately put me over the edge is the day that I had been on a week's vacation and I came back to work, and within 4 hours I was crying and ready to throw up. And that's when I knew I needed to go. My body was telling me, because of the frustration with the job. And thankfully, I had prepared myself with starting a business. Now, if you are not prepared to start a business, you can certainly be prepared with your resume, all of your training records, your performance appraisals, and having those things at hand. I wanted to be prepared for the day that I got so frustrated I might be insubordinate and asked to leave, or on impulse just walked out, because I knew myself. I didn't want to do either one of those things, nor let it affect my performance. So I prepared a lot. And when I talk to a number of people, Dana, like your friend, I have coached many people through outplacement. You can tell that they have not necessarily thought about the possibility that they're not going to have their job the next day. And so it's really important for me to get ahead of it if you can. When I left my job, as you can imagine, with the HR manager voluntarily leaving, employees were a little edgy about, oh my God, do you know something I don't? And what I would tell them was, pay attention to what's going on with you. This may be the right decision for me, but you have to decide whether it's the right decision for you. And there's that shift from that patriarchal sort of mindset being taken care of to owning.
So I want to ask Mary Brody her experience with this too, but I wanted to share something with you because I'd never thought of it quite this clearly till you were just talking, which is this. I think that the core words you said is owning your career success. And the reason, what struck me while you were talking is I've had that similar experience where it's like, I just realized I'm not happy in my job and the job's not going to change. My boss isn't going to just one day become a new person and start treating me differently or giving me better work or whatever, like that's not going to happen. And I've, I'm going to go find a job. But I've also had the experience of being happy in my job and realizing, though, that I probably won't be happy forever. And this was in particular, I was in a startup, and I knew the startup wasn't going to grow as fast as I was going to grow. And I probably had this is my third startup. I had about 2 years where I could really advance my career in that company so that I could get the kind of job I wanted after that. And so I set my career intention within the current job because I was looking beyond the current job. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot. I was a key player. I got a lot done. I accomplished a lot. I was very successful in that job because I was thinking beyond it. And I was looking for the experiences in the work that would build my resume, that would build my network, that would build my own expertise and understanding of the industry, so that when it was time for me to leave, whether it was voluntary or involuntary, I had taken that next step. And that's when, owning your career success, I began to understand it as both important to get out, to get a new job, but also to make the most of the work that I have. Mm-hmm. And it's that ownership thing that is the key. Mary Brody, I know you have a lot to say on this topic.
Yeah, I have two things. I think early on in my career, I got the advice from someone because I was like young, and I had I adopted a mentor, and when I adopted her, or she let me adopt her, the first thing that she shared with me was, what are you in it for? Because I was like bitching at her one morning. I'm like, meh, 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 meh. And she's like, so what are you in this for? What do you want to get out of it? And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that, right? So there I was, took my 25-year-old self back in my office. I'm like, oh, what did I do? So I started using that to help drive things. And then I think the big aha moment about you have to really take charge of your career, you can't trust the company really to do it, was when I got laid off from one of the big five, I think at the time, 4 consulting firms. I thought my numbers were great, right? Then my team was doing great. We were on the bench for 3 months and our numbers were still great. But because of political situations, we were not allowed to transfer to a group that would let us do our thing. So ended up getting laid off. And I think after that, I had to do a lot of reflection on what I really wanted. And the whole thing, I think I was in it, like I thought I wanted to stay in that type of environment for the longest time because I thought that's what made me happy. And I was really miserable working there. I hated my job. I liked what I did. And that's what I had to learn also, like, you can like what you do, but the environment might not be for you. And that was a big like the aha moment when I let go of the environment. Like I ended up I found a job. The day I let it go was the day I found a job. But after a few years of being laid off, right? But I finally got it together. And then realized that's what really makes you happy. Like I had to let go of the corporate thing was not me. And that's okay, right? But I do like what I do.
And it's interesting to me, thinking back on when I was once involuntarily separated. It was part of an acquisition that came together and then shed, and it was totally not personal. It wasn't about me. There were hundreds of us, going out in stages. And it was fascinating to me to see the difference between the people who felt, oh my gosh, they owed me more than this, and those who said, hey, here's a new opportunity. I got a little teeny severance. It's enough to, use as a springboard. And the ones who struggled against it had more of the experience you're talking about, right? Which is just kind of being in negative land and then letting it go. And the people who had let it go earlier had attached to something else. So it's easier to let something go, like your bitterness towards being let go, if you're excited about taking that next step. And to me, that's what a career intention does for me. It keeps me attached to something exciting, either it's in this job or that this job is going to help me reach. And let me ask you this, even though there's a lot of material out there, and our program in particular and my blog posts are all about this, what does a career intention look like to you guys? And I'll share mine too, but like saying, oh, I have an intention for my career. What the heck does that mean, really? What does it look like? Mary? Mm-hmm. Schaefer?
As I'm listening to both of you, and having, reiterated my own experience, I think it can be different given what point you are in the path. Dana, you talked about, okay, I know I'm not going to stay here forever, but what can I get out of this right now? And I'm noticing I do mention that in the blog post, even though it's not perfect and I'm not ready to leave, can I develop new skills? Can I practice, leading a team or whatever? And then to your point, Mary, about, you were talking to your mentor and your very young self, and she said, well, why are you here? Oh, I need to think about that. I remember the time that I was asked, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I'm like, are you kidding? But within those 5 years, my experience led me to be clear that I wanted to get into HR, but I couldn't have answered that question then. And so, I may have quoted it in this post. I don't know. I know I saw you write it somewhere, Dana, was stay current with yourself.
I thought you said that.
Yeah. And you repeated it. And I heard it from an author, Marianne Williamson, and I think it's just a really powerful statement for when you don't have an answer, or you think you should be further along than you are, or what are you going to do in 5 years? I don't know, but I like what I'm doing now, So, and that's why I also asked those questions at the beginning of my post is, how are you feeling? How are you getting along with people? What's your performance look like right now? So, asking yourself questions that you can answer. And then, okay, so what does all that tell me, even if I only know the next step for me in the next 3 months? because I couldn't have answered that guy's question about 5 years. And depending on where you are, I've talked to those people who have been outplaced and it hit them like a ton of bricks. And I really have to hold their hand and guide them through the process of what's just wrapping their head around what could possibly be next. And so my answer to you is, what is a career intention? It's the answer you get when you stay current with yourself and start asking yourself some inward questions.
Okay, I like that. Mary Brody.
Oh, when you talked about the 5-year question, I was like kind of giggling to myself because I always dreaded. I always had a vision. I wanted to have my own business at 21. All right, like that was always my vision, that I am going to be. And I remember taking a walk with a friend of mine late one summer night, and we went past this awesome, like old-fashioned building, and I'm like, I'm going to have an office there. And I told her other places I want to have an office there, right? So when I'd go into interviews and they say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I was always stumped because I'm like getting enough experience and seniority so I can have my own business. I know that statement would have just got me like, see ya. So it was always hard because I had to kind of fake it and fudge it and try to think of ways or hope to God they don't ask me that question, because that was always my goal, is like I'm getting enough experience so I can run projects and manage money, so that way when I go off on my own, I'm cool with that. Yeah, that's where, I don't know. I think it's hard. It's hard for someone who has an entrepreneurial heart. That's the hard one.
Well, so you're bringing up a different dimension of it. I'll answer my own question too, which is, it's one thing to have an intention for yourself. It's another thing to share it with other people. Those can be two different processes for a very important reason, which is your career intention is the thing that motivates you forward. It's your vision of success that motivates you forward. And here's a wrinkle I will add, that you're committed to. If you're committed to achieving, you can envision it. It is a vision, but it's a vision that's so motivating and wonderful that you commit to it. You say, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. And what I find trips us up is sometimes we're too literal. So somebody asks us what do you want to be in 5 years? And we try to tell them that. And depending on who it is, they get it or don't get it. And your intention is really for you. It is important to share it with people who can help you in a way that allows them to see how they can help you. So, I remember being in college, driving around, and I just really saw myself as an independent consultant and an expert and a teacher. That was a long time ago. That was more than 3 decades ago. I had no idea how I was going to get there. It took me 2.5 decades to get there. But, and I didn't interview with that intention a lot of the time. I interviewed with a shorter term intention. I really want to own my success. I want to run a team. I want to gain this kind of experience and understanding. I see myself as, running a larger team, blah, blah, blah. And that was for purposes of helping me get that next step forward. But the power of an intention, in any intention, but particularly in your career, is your ability to envision something that you get so excited about, it keeps pulling you forward. Because a lot of times we come up with a definition of success that gets somebody else excited. Our parents, our spouse, other people, our boss, other people in our group. But if it's not really motivating to us, then it's not the career intention that's going to help us make the decisions in our life and our career to get the kind of experience, to leave when we have to take on a new opportunity when we have to deal with the gift of being separated a little earlier than we intended, maybe. All those things, when we're really attached and committed to that vision of success, all those other things just become tools to help us get there. Mm-hmm. And that's the power of an intention, is it keeps us motivated and excited through the ugly process of getting there. And the only other thing I'll say is, a lot of the time we see the intention clearly in 2020 hindsight. And that's because when we envision it differently than it actually shows up. So to me, Mary, the power of staying current with yourself is continuing to check in with, well, what aspect of my intention am I actually achieving right now? Like, I wanted to be an independent consultant and teacher, I actually started work after graduate school for a consultant. It didn't feel as free as I wanted it to be, when I was in charge of my own business. But I was a consultant. I was teaching people. I had clients that I was, bringing along. And I remember even then thinking, okay, well, it's not quite the whole way there, but this is an important step. I'm gaining some experience towards that thing I want to do. And so to me, the checking in is looking, well, what am I enjoying? Add that to my vision of success. What aspect of my vision of success am I actually doing so I can enjoy it more? And it's kind of that process. And it grows and it changes over time. But only if we recognize the parts of it that are coming true as we come along. Mm-hmm. So just wrapping this up, I think we need to do more conversations about, career transition and the role of intention and maybe some of the other, skills in that, because Mary, I know you and I do outplacement work. We work with a lot of people who are in the process of transitioning and organizations who need to transition a lot of people, and doing it in a way that, is helpful to both the organization and the people. It's very topical and timely, unfortunately, because that's just the pace of business and the way business is done these days. Any final comments from the two of you?
The only comment I have that is Wallace insists on saying hello.
We saw his tail there. That's great.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
I agree. I think there's so much more to talk about with this. You almost can't say enough because there are so many people at different phases of this process. I think anything can be valuable to share, and we've all been through a lot.
Yeah. And I do encourage us and anybody who's watching to really think about previous intentions you've had and see look at it 20/20 hindsight and see how much of it has come true, so that it informs your future intention about, how that can work in the next phase of your career. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank everybody for watching. This has been an InPower Coffee Break. We do it every Tuesday at 1:00. You can go to coffeebreak.InPowerCoaching.com to see what's coming up, to participate live at between 1 and 1:30 every Tuesday, and to view past recordings or listen to the podcast of previous recordings, and sign up for reminders so you can find out every Tuesday when you can join us again. So thanks, Mary and Mary, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next InPower Coffee Break. Take care.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Mary.